The chill of the autumn air nipped at my face as I stared at the flickering neon sign of the Hearth, my family's restaurant. It had been a cornerstone of our lives, a place of celebrations, arguments, and countless shared meals. Tonight, though, the warm glow felt distant, ominous even. I adjusted my tie, the silk suddenly feeling like a noose, and took a deep breath. This family business meeting was supposed to be about the restaurant's future, a strategic planning session. But a knot of unease had been tightening in my stomach all day. My name is Julian, and for the past 10 years, I'd poured my heart and soul into the Hearth. I'd started as a busboy, worked my way up through the kitchen, and eventually landed a management role. It wasn't just a job, it was family. Or at least it used to be. Pushing open the heavy oak doors, the familiar scent of simmering tomato sauce and wood smoke, usually a comfort, now felt heavy with unspoken tension. My parents, Robert and Eleanor, sat at the head of the long mahogany table, their faces etched with a strange mix of severity and pity. My siblings, Clara and Daniel, were also present, their expressions mirroring our parents. Julian, you're here," my father said, his voice lacking its usual warmth. "Please have a seat." I scanned the table, looking for my usual spot, the one I'd occupied for countless meetings. Instead, there was a stark white label. It read, in bold, black letters, "Former employee." The room seemed to spin. My heart hammered against my ribs. I felt a flush creep up my neck. "Former employee?" I managed to croak out, my voice barely a whisper. What does this mean?" My sister, Clara, cleared her throat. She'd always been ambitious, driven, sometimes to the point of ruthlessness. "Julian," she began, her voice surprisingly gentle, "Dad and I have been discussing the future of the Hearth. We think it's time for some restructuring." Restructuring? That was a sanitized word for something far more brutal, I knew. I could feel the blood draining from my face. Restructuring? But I've dedicated my life to this place. What about my position? My work? My mother, Eleanor, reached out a hand, but quickly withdrew it. Her eyes, usually so full of affection, were clouded with a strange sadness. "Your sister, Clara, will be taking over your responsibilities, Julian. She has some excellent ideas for modernizing the restaurant, taking it to the next level." It was like a physical blow. I stumbled back as if I'd been shoved. My mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of what they were saying. 10 years. 10 years of early mornings, late nights, missed holidays, all for this? To be dismissed, replaced, as if I were some disposable commodity? But I don't understand," I stammered, my voice thick with disbelief. "I've always put the Hearth first. I've sacrificed so much." My brother, Daniel, usually the peacemaker, the one who always tried to smooth things over, remained silent. He avoided my gaze, staring down at the table as if it held the secrets of the universe. His silence was a deafening condemnation. "We appreciate your contributions, Julian," my father said, his voice firm, final. "But we believe this is the best decision for the business." "The best decision?" I repeated, the words bitter on my tongue. "Or the best decision for Clara?" Clara's eyes flashed. "That's unfair, Julian. I've worked hard too. I have a degree in business management. I have the skills to take the Hearth to new heights. And I don't." I shot back, my voice rising. "I know this restaurant inside and out. I know the customers, the suppliers, the staff. I am the Hearth." "You're too resistant to change, Julian," my father interjected. "You're stuck in the past. We need fresh ideas, a new direction." Stuck in the past? I'd poured my heart into preserving the tradition of the Hearth, the things that made it special, the things that kept customers coming back for generations. Was that so wrong? "So that's it?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "After everything, I'm just out?" My mother finally spoke, her voice laced with a hint of regret. "We've prepared a severance package, Julian. It's generous. A severance package. Money. That's all I was worth to them now. A payout to make me go away quietly." I felt a surge of anger, hot and fierce. "Keep your money," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't want it. I want my life back. I want my family back. I looked at each of them, my gaze lingering on their faces, searching for a flicker of recognition, a hint of remorse. But there was nothing. Only cold, hard business. Fine, I said, my voice flat. If that's how it's going to be, then I'm done. I pushed back my chair, the scraping sound echoing in the sudden silence. I ripped the former employee label from the table and threw it to the floor. You'll regret this, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You'll all regret this. I turned and walked out, the heavy oak doors slamming shut behind me, the sound like a final, irrevocable goodbye. The night air was cold against my skin, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating atmosphere of the hearth. I walked for hours, not knowing where I was going, just needing to escape the crushing weight of betrayal. How could my own family do this to me? How could they so easily discard me, erase my contributions, rewrite my history? I ended up at my best friend Liam's apartment. Liam and I had been friends since childhood, sharing dreams, secrets, and countless late-night pizzas. If anyone could understand what I was going through, it was him. I poured out the whole story, the words tumbling over each other in my haste to explain the inexplicable. Liam listened patiently, his face growing darker with each detail. That's unbelievable, Julian, he said finally, his voice tight with anger. Your own family? After everything you've done for them? I know, I said, my voice hoarse. I don't understand. I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down. Liam put a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm. You'll get through this, man. You're strong. You're talented. You'll find something even better. His words were comforting, but they couldn't fill the gaping hole in my heart. The loss of my job was one thing, but the loss of my family, that was a wound that cut deep. The next few weeks were a blur of confusion and grief. I went through the motions of life, but I felt like a ghost, haunting the edges of my own existence. I couldn't bring myself to go near the hearth. The memories were too painful, the sense of injustice too raw. I tried to talk to my family, to reason with them, but my calls went unanswered, my texts ignored. It was as if I'd been erased from their lives, as if I'd never existed. One evening, Liam dragged me to our old favorite pub, the Rusty Mug. The familiar atmosphere, the friendly faces, usually a source of comfort, felt alien. I sat in a corner booth, nursing a beer, trying to drown my sorrows in the amber liquid. Suddenly, I noticed a group of people at the bar, whispering and pointing in my direction. I could hear snippets of conversation. That's him? Julian fired, family drama. The whispers turned into stares, the stares into open hostility. I felt a wave of nausea. This was my town, my community, but suddenly I felt like an outsider, a pariah. I stood up, my chair scraping against the wooden floor. What's going on? I demanded, my voice trembling. The bartender, a burly man named Frank who'd always been friendly, looked away. Look, Julian, I don't want any trouble. But word's gotten around about what happened at the hearth. And I pressed. And, well, people are saying that you deserved it. That you were holding the restaurant back. I couldn't believe my ears. My own community, the people I'd grown up with, were turning against me, siding with my family without even hearing my side of the story. Who's saying this? I asked, my voice tight with anger. Who's spreading these lies? Your sister mostly, Frank said, his voice low. She's been telling everyone how she's going to save the hearth, how you were the problem. Clara. Of course. She wasn't just content with taking my job. She had to destroy my reputation too. I felt a surge of fury, so intense it was almost blinding. I'm leaving, I said, my voice shaking. I can't stay here. Not anymore. Liam tried to reason with me, but my mind was made up. I couldn't live in a town where my own family had turned everyone against me. I had to start over, somewhere new, somewhere where I wasn't defined by the lies and betrayals of the past. I packed my bags, said a tearful goodbye to Liam, and left town the next morning. The road stretched out before me, long and uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. I was leaving behind the pain and the anger, the suffocating sense of injustice. I was heading towards a future I would build for myself, on my own terms. The next 5 years were a whirlwind of hard work, determination, and self-discovery. I moved to a bustling city, far from the familiar landscapes of my hometown. I started small, working in various restaurants, learning new cuisines, honing my skills. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, disappointments, moments when I wanted to give up and crawl back to the comfort of the familiar. But I refused to let the bitterness of the past define me. I was determined to prove my family wrong, to show them that I was capable of success, even without their help. Slowly but surely, I began to build a new life for myself. I met new people, made new friends, discovered new passions. I even started dating someone, a kind and supportive woman named Maya, who saw me for who I was, not for the shadow of my past. But even as I built a new life, the memories of my family, the pain of their betrayal, lingered like a scar. I tried to push them away, to forget, but they always seemed to resurface, especially during holidays or family gatherings. Then, one day, out of the blue, I received a message from my brother Daniel. It was a simple message, just a few words: "We need to talk." My heart pounded in my chest. After 5 years of silence, 5 years of being cut off, they wanted to talk? What could they possibly want to say? I hesitated, unsure whether to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore the message, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But another part of me, a small, stubborn part, was curious. What had prompted this sudden change of heart? After a long internal debate, I finally replied, "Okay." "When and where?" Daniel suggested meeting at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between my city and our hometown. I agreed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. What was this meeting really about? The day of the meeting arrived, and I found myself driving back towards my hometown for the first time in 5 years. The landscape was familiar, yet alien. Everything seemed smaller, less vibrant than I remembered. The coffee shop was a small, independent place, tucked away on a quiet side street. I arrived early, my nerves on edge. I ordered a coffee and waited, my gaze fixed on the door. Finally, Daniel walked in. He looked older, more worn than I remembered. There were lines around his eyes, and his shoulders seemed slumped with a burden I couldn't quite decipher. We greeted each other awkwardly, the silence heavy with unspoken words. We ordered our drinks and settled into a quiet corner booth. So I began, my voice carefully neutral. "What did you want to talk about?" Daniel took a deep breath. "It's about the hearth, Julian. Things haven't been going well." "I'm not surprised," I said, my voice sharp. "Clara's running it, isn't she? The same Clara who thought I was stuck in the past?" Daniel winced. "It's not that simple, Julian. Clara, she's made some changes, yes, but they haven't been working. The customers are leaving, the staff is unhappy, and the restaurant is losing money." "And you think this is my problem?" I asked, my voice incredulous. "You kicked me out, remember? You replaced me. You made it clear I wasn't wanted there." "I know, Julian, and we're sorry. We made a mistake. A big one." The word sorry hung in the air, heavy with regret. It was a start, but it wasn't enough to erase the years of pain and betrayal. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Daniel," I said, my voice tight. "You destroyed my life. You turned my own community against me. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to be okay." Daniel nodded, his face etched with remorse. I know we can't undo the past. But we're hoping you'll consider coming back." "To the hearth." I stared at him, stunned. "You want me to come back? After everything?" "We need you, Julian," Daniel said, his voice pleading. "You were right. You are the hearth. You know it better than anyone. Clara, she's good at business, but she doesn't understand the soul of the place. She doesn't have your passion, your connection to the customers." "And what makes you think I'd even consider it?" I asked, my voice cold. "You threw me away like garbage. Why would I want to go back to that?" "Because it's your legacy, Julian," Daniel said, his voice earnest. "It's our family's legacy. It's more than just a restaurant. It's a part of us. And it's dying without you." His words struck a chord deep within me. Despite everything, the hearth was a part of me. It was where I'd grown up, where I'd learned about hard work, about family, about the power of food to bring people together. But could I really go back? Could I forgive my family for what they'd done? Could I trust them again? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. I need time to think, I said finally, my voice weary. This is a lot to take in. Daniel nodded. I understand. Just, please consider it. The hearth needs you, Julian. And so does our family. He left me with those words, the weight of his plea hanging heavy in the air. I sat there for a long time, staring out the window, watching the world go by. The past tugged at me, pulling me back towards the familiar, towards the pain. But the future beckoned, offering the promise of a new life, a life I'd built on my own. What should I do? The drive back to the city was a blur. My thoughts were a tangled mess, a jumble of resentment, nostalgia, and confusion. Daniel's plea echoed in my mind. The hearth needs you, and so does our family. Need. It was a powerful word, loaded with implications. Had they finally realized the gravity of their actions? Or was this just a desperate attempt to salvage their failing business? I wrestled with these questions, the weight of the past pressing down on me. When I finally arrived home, Maya was waiting for me, her eyes filled with concern. She could always read me like an open book. You seem troubled, she said softly, taking my hand. What happened with Daniel? I told her everything, sparing no detail. I described the meeting, Daniel's desperate appeal, the conflicting emotions churning within me. Maya listened patiently, offering no judgment, only quiet support. It's a difficult situation, Julian, she said when I'd finished. They hurt you deeply. It's understandable that you're hesitant to trust them again. Hesitant? I scoffed. I'm terrified. They ripped my heart out, Maya. How can I possibly go back to that? Maya held my gaze, her expression firm. But it's also a part of you, isn't it? The hearth. It's in your blood, in your bones. You can't deny that. Her words hit home. As much as I resented my family, the restaurant held a powerful sway over me. It was where I'd learned the value of hard work, the importance of community, the magic of creating something beautiful with your own hands. I know, I admitted, my voice low. But it's not just about the restaurant. It's about them. My family. Can I ever forgive them for what they did? Maya squeezed my hand. Forgiveness is a journey, Julian. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to let go of the anger and resentment. Her words were wise, but the prospect of forgiveness felt daunting. The wounds were still raw, the scars still visible. I don't know if I'm strong enough, I confessed, my voice filled with doubt. Maya smiled gently. You are? You've come so far, Julian. You've built a new life for yourself. You've proven that you can succeed on your own terms. That strength, that resilience, will guide you. Her belief in me was unwavering, a beacon of light in the darkness of my uncertainty. But even with her support, the decision weighed heavily on me. The next few days were a period of intense introspection. I found myself revisiting old memories, both good and bad, of my time at the hearth. I remembered the bustling kitchen, the aroma of spices, the satisfied smiles of the customers. But I also remembered the bitter arguments, the crushing disappointment, the feeling of being betrayed by the people I loved most. I even found myself driving past restaurants, observing their operations, subtly comparing them to the hearth. It was an unconscious habit, a testament to how deeply ingrained the restaurant business was in my identity. One evening, I decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. I ended up in a park, sitting on a bench overlooking a small pond. As I watched the ducks gliding across the water, I thought about my parents. I pictured my father, Robert, his face etched with the lines of years of hard work, his hands calloused from countless hours in the kitchen. I remembered his gruff but ultimately loving nature, his unwavering belief in the importance of family. And then I pictured my mother, Eleanor, her warm smile, her gentle touch, her ability to make everyone feel welcome and at home. I remembered her unwavering support, her quiet strength, her deep love for her children. Despite everything, I couldn't deny the love that had once bound us together. It was buried beneath layers of pain and anger, but it was still there, a faint ember glowing in the darkness. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I couldn't let the bitterness of the past completely extinguish that ember. I couldn't let my anger consume me, turning me into someone I didn't want to be. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called Daniel. "Okay," I said, my voice firm. "I'll come back, but on my terms." Daniel's relief was palpable. "Anything, Julian. Just tell us what you want." I laid out my conditions, carefully and deliberately. "I want complete autonomy over the kitchen," I said. "No interference from Clara, no second-guessing my decisions. I'll make the changes I deem necessary, and you'll trust my judgment." "Agreed," Daniel said quickly. "I want a clear understanding of my role," I continued. "I'm not just an employee, I'm a consultant. I'll guide the restaurant back to its former glory, but I won't be tied down to the day-to-day management." "We understand," Daniel assured me. "And finally," I said, my voice softening, "I want our family back. I want to rebuild the trust that we've lost. I want to find a way to move forward together." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Daniel spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "We want that too, Julian. More than anything." The terms were set. The decision was made. I was going back to the hearth. The drive to my hometown felt different this time. There was still a knot of apprehension in my stomach, but it was mixed with a sense of purpose, a flicker of hope. I wasn't going back as a defeated man. I was going back as someone who had overcome adversity, who had proven his worth, who was ready to reclaim his legacy. When I arrived at the hearth, the atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. My parents were there, along with Daniel and Clara. They all looked nervous, unsure of what to expect. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The familiar sights, sounds, and smells washed over me, triggering a flood of memories. It was like coming home after a long and arduous journey. My father was the first to approach me. He looked older, his face etched with worry, but his eyes held a glimmer of hope. "Julian," he said, his voice gruff but tender, "we're glad you're back." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "I'm glad to be here, Dad. But there's a lot of work to do." My mother stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. She reached out and took my hand, her touch warm and familiar. "We've missed you so much, Julian," she said, her voice trembling. "We've made so many mistakes. Can you ever forgive us?" I looked at her, at my father, at Daniel, their faces filled with remorse and longing. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt a flicker of true forgiveness. "I'm trying, Mom," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm trying." Then my gaze fell on Clara. She stood apart from the others, her expression a mixture of defiance and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. "Clara," I said, my voice neutral, "we have a lot to discuss. About the restaurant, about our family. Are you ready for that?" Clara hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. I think so, Julian. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Rebuilding the hearth, repairing the fractured bonds of our family, would take time, patience, and a willingness to confront the pain of the past. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Maybe we could reclaim the love and unity that had once defined us. Maybe, just maybe, we could make the hearth a home again. The initial days back at the hearth were a whirlwind of activity. The restaurant was in a state of disarray. The menu had become bland and uninspired. The service was lackluster, and the once vibrant atmosphere was now stale and unwelcoming. I dove in headfirst, determined to restore the hearth to its former glory. I spent hours in the kitchen, experimenting with new dishes, refining old recipes, and training the staff to deliver the kind of exceptional culinary experience that had once been the restaurant's hallmark. I overhauled the menu, introducing fresh, seasonal ingredients, and incorporating modern techniques while staying true to the restaurant's roots. I reintroduced some of the classic dishes that had been lost over the years, the ones that held special meaning for the longtime customers. Outside the kitchen, I worked with Daniel to revamp the service and ambience. We retrained the waitstaff, emphasizing attentiveness, warmth, and genuine hospitality. We redecorated the dining room, adding touches of warmth and elegance, while preserving the restaurant's cozy, inviting feel. It was exhausting work, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Slowly but surely, the hearth began to come back to life. The aroma of delicious food filled the air, the sound of laughter and conversation echoed through the dining room, and the customers started to return, drawn back by the promise of a memorable dining experience. However, the most challenging aspect of my return wasn't revitalizing the restaurant. It was rebuilding my relationship with my family, especially Clara. Clara and I were like oil and water. We had always clashed, our personalities and approaches to life fundamentally different. Her ambition often bordered on ruthlessness, while I valued tradition and connection. Working alongside her was a constant exercise in patience and diplomacy. We disagreed on almost everything from the marketing strategy to the wine list. Our meetings often devolved into heated arguments, the tension between us palpable. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Clara and I found ourselves alone in the restaurant after closing. The staff had gone home, the dining room was quiet, and the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator. "We can't keep doing this, Clara," I said, my voice weary. "We're going to tear each other apart if we don't find a way to work together." Clara sighed, her shoulders slumping. "I know, Julian. But it's not easy for me either. I feel like I'm constantly being judged, like I have to prove myself to you." "That's not it at all," I said, surprised by her vulnerability. "It's not about proving yourself. It's about respect. I need you to respect my expertise in the kitchen, and you need to respect my vision for the restaurant." Clara looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Do you respect mine?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'm trying, Clara. But it's hard when you constantly undermine my decisions." We talked for hours that night, laying bare our insecurities, our fears, our hopes for the future. We talked about our childhood, our shared memories, the events that had shaped us into the people we were today. Slowly, tentatively, we began to find common ground. We discovered that we both wanted the same thing: to see the hearth thrive, to honor our family's legacy, to make our parents proud. It wasn't easy, but we started to compromise, to listen to each other's perspectives, to find solutions that worked for both of us. We learned to appreciate each other's strengths, to value each other's contributions. My relationship with my parents also began to heal, though it was a gradual process. We had many long, heartfelt conversations, during which we acknowledged the pain of the past and expressed our hopes for the future. My father, Robert, finally admitted that he had been too quick to judge, too willing to believe the worst. He confessed that he had missed my presence at the hearth, my passion for the food, my connection with the customers. My mother, Eleanor, apologized for her silence, for her inability to stand up for me when I needed her most. She expressed her deep regret for the years of estrangement, the missed holidays, the lost moments. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was essential. We couldn't move forward if we were still clinging to the anger and resentment of the past. We had to let go of the pain, to embrace the possibility of reconciliation. As the months passed, the hearth continued to flourish. The restaurant was once again a beloved institution in our community, a place where people came to celebrate special occasions, to enjoy a delicious meal, and to feel a sense of warmth and belonging. And more importantly, our family began to heal. The wounds of the past slowly began to fade, replaced by a renewed sense of love, respect, and understanding. One evening, as I stood in the bustling dining room, watching the happy faces of the customers, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. I had come back to the hearth, not just to save the restaurant, but to save my family. I had learned that forgiveness is possible, that healing is attainable, and that even after the deepest betrayal, love can endure. I also learned that family isn't always perfect, but it's always worth fighting for. A year later, we celebrated the hearth's 50th anniversary. It was a grand celebration, a testament to the resilience of our family and the enduring spirit of the restaurant. The entire community came out to celebrate with us. There was live music, delicious food, and an abundance of laughter and joy. As I looked around at the scene, I saw my parents beaming with pride, Daniel chatting with customers, and Clara overseeing the smooth operation of the event. And I felt a profound sense of peace. We had come full circle. We had faced adversity, overcome challenges, and emerged stronger and more united than ever before. The hearth was more than just a restaurant. It was a symbol of our family's love, resilience, and enduring legacy, and I was proud to be a part of it. That night, as I stood beside Maya, watching the fireworks light up the sky, I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I had found my way back home, not just to the hearth, but to my family, to myself. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all.